Do you ever have those moments where you sit and you go off into like a little fantasy or a dream and you start thinking, if only I had known that earlier, what could have been? What a difference it would have made. The things I would have done differently if I'd just known that thing earlier. If I could go back to 16-year-old Johnny or 18-year-old Johnny and tell him this, then everything would be different. Do you ever have those feelings? Obviously, you don't go back to 16 or 18-year-old Johnny, you go back to yourself. But the point I'm making is there are some things in our life that we have learned, perhaps, probably, most likely the hard way. And if only we had known them when we were younger or at a certain stage in our life. The reason I've been thinking about this is because I was at an event recently and I was asked a really interesting question at the table. It was, what's one psychological truth that you wish that you had known earlier? And actually, it started quite an interesting debate at the table. It was so fascinating to see how mistakes or things that they didn't know, a lack of knowledge, how it impacted that person for the rest of their life. How clearly, even though they were okay or they were doing well or they were satisfied with their life, that there was still this niggling feeling that if only they had known this, then things would be different in some way. It's a really difficult place to sit in. It really is. There's this thing I do called the rocking chair test, and what it does is it transports you to the future where you sit in a rocking chair at 90 years old and you reflect on your life. And one of the feelings and emotions it tries to bring out is the feelings of regret. And regret is a devastating emotion, if I'm honest, because if you're 90 years old, let's say, and you're sat in a rocking chair, what can you do about it? You can't go back in time. You can't change it. You can't know what you didn't know and take action. But that's the beauty of the rocking chair test. You are going forward in time as such, so you can come back in time to the person you are now, 40, 30, 20, whatever you are, and you can make that change. You can realize that that thing that you didn't know was really important. Now you know it. You can make sure that you move forward and live your life the way you want to. Interestingly enough, it's a feature meditation that I put people through in my new course, which I just announced on Instagram last week. I announced on Friday that I will be releasing my first ever really big course. This is the first time that I've collected all of my work together in one place. Oh, I tell you what, I don't think I've ever worked so hard on anything in my life. It's like a baby to me. I've invested a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of research, money. And when I say money, it's not just on the filming of it all and creating it on the platform and all of those different things that are involved in it, marketing, all of those different things, branding, all of that. It's also all of the money that I've spent to sit around incredible thought leaders and ask them questions and spend time with them, and all the books I've bought, all of the events I've been to, all of those things. I'm sharing all of it in one course, and it's called Self-Made. And the reason for it being called Self-Made, and I'll get onto this on another podcast, but it's because I created a model. When I was writing my book, I was trying to find a way to make everything make sense and to put it into... See, this is the thing. Knowledge is power, or the application of knowledge is power. But first you've got to understand what it means, and you've got to recognize how you can use it. So I try to find the simplest and easiest ways of transferring knowledge. And I think as a strength of mine, that's definitely one of the things that I pride myself on, is finding very simple ways to explain seemingly very complex concepts. And I created a model called the M.A.D.E model, which stands for Morals, Ambitions, Drivers and Environments. And that's what this course is. It's a way of taking you through self-development. The morals will help you figure out who you are by challenging your core values and your belief systems. Your ambitions will tap into who you are and what you want. What do you want? I mean, what do you really want out of life? If you could say unapologetically and unashamedly what you wanted from life, what would it be? Because most people will tell you a version of that, or they will tell you what they think that you want to hear. But I want to know what you really want. What do you really want? And there's your drivers. And I mean, this is the thing, right? We can be very motivated to do whatever, learn a language, lose weight, take a training course, get a new job, whatever it is we're going to do, take a driving test, whatever it is that we want to aspire to do. We can be really motivated and we can have that new idea energy. But at some point, all that falls away and it gets really, really hard to carry on. And that's where I want to understand what drives you, the fuel that you put in the tank to keep going, even on the days you don't want to. And then lastly, your environments. Is your environment set up to support the person you want to become, or is it set up to support the person that you don't want to be? Which is it? So the course is out there. I'll be talking a lot more about it on social media and probably on this podcast, so stand by for that. You can join the wait list right now if you're interested. It's in the show notes. Go to my social. It'll hopefully by this point be everywhere. Anyway, it's enough of that. I feel like I'm selling like a salesman or something. But it is a very, very important course. I think it will be the difference maker. But back to it. 5 psychological truths that I wish I had known earlier. Ugh. Man, hopefully I'm saving you some drama here. But the first one has to be self-awareness. Have you ever met that person and you just can't believe how they act? You're just like, really? Really? That's how you're going to be? You're going to come into this meeting, you're going to do that, you're going to say this, you're going to act like that. You don't care that you offend that person. You don't care that you have done this or said this, and they justify it by going, I'm just being me. I'm just being me. But look, self-awareness, honestly, is the gateway to everything. I believe it's the foundation of self-development. Self-awareness isn't just about knowing what you like or dislike. A lot of people think that, I'm aware of myself. I know what it means. That's not what I'm talking about. Not completely. It's about understanding your triggers. Because again, a large part of self-development is really self-leadership. It's about really taking ownership of yourself and recognizing that, okay, today I'm going to be interacting with someone and I often find them triggering. I don't like the way they do this. I don't like the way they say that. I don't like the way they behave. I wouldn't do things like that, and I find it all very irritating. There are times, unfortunately, where you can't pick and choose who you hang out with or who you're surrounded by at work and teams or whatever it is that you're in. So you have to understand what triggers you. You have to have an understanding of it so that at that point, once you understand what triggers you, you then can create some solutions and autonomy around how you're going to deal with it. If you don't know, then it's always going to be that you are at the mercy of that person or that situation or that trigger. Your patterns, habits, routines. Okay, we might have plans about what we're going to do, and that's all good, and that's really awesome, and I'm really happy about that, and we should have those plans, and that's a good idea. However, what I'm interested in is, what are you actually going to do in that situation? Let's set ourselves up to win. Let's set ourselves up to succeed. Let's set ourselves up by treating ourselves who we really are. We have this idea of who we'd like to be in our head, and that's great, and we can aim for that. But really what we're interested in when it comes to self-awareness is, who are we? What are we really going to do in that situation? How are we really going to respond or react in that situation? What's the action that we're really, really likely to take? I know the one that you wish you would take and hope that you take, but I'm talking about the one that you probably will take. So understand your patterns, habits, and routines. Your beliefs and how heavily you push them on others. We have to get this understanding in our head, I think, that we all have preferences and we all have beliefs about things. Now, facts are facts, beliefs are beliefs. They're different. But see, the thing is, beliefs can very often feel like facts, which can be a problem because we will push our beliefs on people. And again, remember, beliefs are things that we believe are not necessarily facts or true. And we push them on other people, and other people go, well, no, I don't think that's true. I don't agree with that. And we go, wait a minute. And all of a sudden we get caught up in the energy of the whole conversation, and it becomes our mission on earth to either prove them wrong or to get them to see things our way. That's happening quite a lot in society at the moment, I think. And it's a problem. It's a real problem because we're all disagreeing over things that aren't actually true or real or anything that actually matters sometimes. It's crazy. And then there's how your emotions drive your behavior. If we are not aware of the emotions that we find difficult to have, or that we avoid, or that we prefer not to have, or that we try to change into other emotions, then they are going to dominate our behavior. They are going to feel like, in those moments when we're emotionally triggered, they're going to feel like things, behaviors, actions that we have to take instead of our choosing to take. When we have to take an action, that's often a problem. That often means that you've been emotionally triggered. So we have to understand how our emotions are driving our behavior, how they are driving our behavior, not why, how. And some people won't agree with this, but human interaction and connection is really important. It's really important how, whether people like us, don't like us, how people treat us, and that dictates what opportunities we get and who we're surrounded by and all sorts of things in our life. So I think it's really important, and I'm only asking people to look at this point. Just look out for the social cues of how people interact with you. How are they interacting with you? Because you teach people how to treat you. So if you're behaving in a certain way and people are reacting to you in a certain way, you're kind of directing their behavior towards you, which means that you kind of have some autonomy in that. Do you like the way they're treating you? Okay, if you don't, are they treating you that way because of something you're doing? Therefore, instead of demanding that they should treat you a different way, what if you changed your behavior? What if you worked harder at being different or being a certain way to a certain outcome? Now that might sound a little bit like manipulation, and perhaps it is. But what I'm talking about is looking out for these social cues. How do we interact with people? It's really important when we're kids, right? One of the cues that we look at for a good kid or a good human is, do they play well with others? Does this kid play well with others? And if they don't, a little red flag goes off in us. But yet, for some reason, it's okay as an adult. Well, it's not okay, but perhaps what some people are saying is, actually, I'm an adult now. I can do what I like. I can behave how I like. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I do. But I'm not telling you to behave or not behave in a certain way. All I'm asking you to do is become aware of how you behave with the people around you. Most people live in a reactive mode. They're not living their lives, they are living out their trauma responses, is the truth. They're living out their trauma responses, they're living out their programming, and they're living out their social conditioning. And all I'm asking you to do is, and it's the best word in the whole of self-development, is become aware of what's actually going on. So here's the truth. If you're not aware of what's running in the background, not only can you not control it or change it, you can't rewrite it. You can't do anything differently because you just don't know it's happening. In fact, in those situations, most people are blaming other people. You cannot lead your life if your subconscious is leading you. Fact, because you've got no autonomy at all. So why not try and practice this? For just 1 week, do a daily journal and ask yourself 2 questions. What did I feel today? Why did I feel it? What led to it? What happened? Pay attention to where you react instead of respond. Listen when others reflect something uncomfortable about you, because there's usually something in it. Now, we don't like getting that feedback. We don't like people saying, you shouldn't say that, you can't say that. Well, hang on, let's listen. What did they say? And what might they have meant? And is the reason you're getting so fiery about it because a little bit of you knows it's true? So this is where it all starts, self-awareness. Get to know yourself so that you can lead yourself. Because there's a saying that my old wrestling coach used to say, if you can't spot the dickhead in the room, it might be you. Always made me laugh at. Next is discomfort is your compass, not your enemy. Most of us avoid discomfort, and I understand why. But actually, what I've come to learn is most of what we want is on the other side of discomfort. That conversation, that truth, that habit, that risk, it's on the other side. But here's the trick that your brain plays on you. It tells you that your discomfort equals danger, and that isn't always true. Quite a lot of the time, it just means that change is happening, growth is happening. And I want you to ask yourself, what am I avoiding that I know would move me forward? What am I avoiding that I know would move me forward? A lot of the time we feel like that the reason we can't move forward is because we are scared of failure, but there are many times that we become scared of success. That can be just as big of a problem because there's an anxiety attached to how to be successful. How do I accept it? How do I prolong it? How do I be that successful version of myself? Often your resistance is actually a signal, not a stop sign, but a green light. So practice this. Do one small thing every day that feels uncomfortable, but necessary. Don't just do random uncomfortable things. That's probably not going to get you anywhere. But do one small thing every day that feels uncomfortable but necessary. Reframe discomfort as growth, pain, not failure. Train your nervous system to sit with hard emotions by practicing doing it. Breathe through it. Don't run from it. When those difficult emotions come up, it's really human to want to get away from it, to avoid it, to do whatever. But all I'm asking you to do is just be with it. And people go, oh, I'll sit with my emotions. I don't know what that means. It sounds a bit... Look, you don't have to sit, you can stand. Whichever. But the principle is that instead of trying to change the emotion or get away from it or blame or avoid or whatever it is, just let the emotion come. Quite often, I'll get messages from people that are quite distressing. It's the industry I'm in. And I still now have emotional responses to these messages. And I've trained myself to put my phone down, walk away from it, and come back to it when the emotion is dissipated so I can make a better call on what I might say on that response. So train your nervous system to sit with those hard emotions by practicing doing it. What we practice, we can become really quite good at. So practice the behavior you want to keep. Next is emotions are information, not instructions. This is a big one. This is something I wish I had learned a long time ago. Emotions are so powerful. They're such incredibly powerful messages. They can often feel like an instruction or a demand or something we have to do. some action comes with it. Like anger feels like we have to attack. Sadness feels like we have to run away. Whatever it is, these emotions are information, not instructions. We're taught to either suppress emotions or be ruled by them. But the truth is, neither of those approaches work. Emotions are data. They're like internal signals telling us what matters, what hurts, what needs our attention. And that's often it. An emotion is usually something that's directing us towards where we need to focus our attention. You're allowed to feel everything. You're not required to act on everything, though. Learn to decode your emotions instead of being dominated by them. When we change our emotions, often it takes longer to get the message. One of the problems that I think comes up a lot with my clients is they want to change their behavior. And that's what I work with. I help people change their behavior. But quite often in the beginning, when we're changing our behavior, we can be proud of how we acted or behaved or the actions we took in that moment. So we're presenting a version of ourselves to the world and everyone's going, oh, that's great. You're dealing with this really well. Inside though, chaos. I spoke about it with a client this week. Hope she's listening. Chaos is inside, and that's perfectly normal. We can't control our emotions, and we shouldn't try. But as we practice these new behaviors, our emotions will take a little bit longer to catch up. They'll just take a little bit longer to get used to the feelings, the uncomfortableness, the difference, the change. It will just take a little while to adjust. And here's the thing, our emotions are messages. They are how we feel. And what we are often avoiding doing, or what we'd like to change when we come to a coach or we look into self-development, is we want to change our behavior. We want to change the things we did in those moments because they impact our life. We can still have chaos inside. That doesn't mean anything's wrong. It just means that you're having an emotional response to it, and that will dissipate and change over time. But what really is a shame is when we behave in a regrettable way and we've caused chaos in our life. That is a shame. So practice this. Name your emotions. Just practice naming your emotions. Not always in the moment, but just like I said to you to reflect at the beginning on the self-awareness thing, I want you to look at your emotions and think, okay, what emotion did I feel? What was it trying to tell me? What was the message there? It's a really interesting question to ask yourself because you want to take a pause before acting and choose to respond instead of react. And I get that. I hear that. I hear it all the time. Respond instead of react. How? Well, it starts with learning our emotions, learning how we really feel about things. Perhaps anger's not anger, perhaps it's fear. And if we try to process anger, we're trying to process the wrong emotion. Therefore, we'll never get anywhere. Because we should be trying to process the emotion of fear instead. Next is identity drives behavior, not willpower. This is massive, this one. I wish I had known this before. It's a big one. If your identity doesn't align with the behavior you want, you'll sabotage yourself every single time. You can't just force yourself into success. You have to become someone who sees themselves as a successful person, as a success, as disciplined, as focused. You have to be able to see yourself that way. Behavior sticks when it's an extension of who you believe that you are. So practice this. Instead of saying, I want to be consistent, say, I'm becoming someone who shows up daily. Change your inner narrative. You're not your past. You're your potential, but only if you own it. Surround yourself with people and environments that reflect your future, not your past. Don't allow those people around you to nudge you and to direct you back to that former identity, that identity that you've worked so hard to move away from. Happens to me sometimes when I get around old friends, I find old behaviors come back, which brings back old mindsets and old thought patterns. It can be really disruptive if you're not careful. Last truth is truth without action is just noise. How many times do you meet that person that say they're going to do this, say they're going to do that, and then years go by, they haven't done anything? And I feel for those people. I don't want to ridicule or make fun of them or anything like that. It's hard. It's really, really hard. You see, you can read every book, listen to every podcast, understand your trauma and patterns perfectly, but if you don't take action to align with your truth, none of it will matter. Living authentically isn't about being perfect. It's about being congruent. What you believe, what you say, and what you must do must align with who you really are. That's the truth. You have to know that you are being who you really are in those situations. And that might mean sometimes you have to miss out on opportunities. That might mean that sometimes things don't go the way you want them to. And if you just say this thing or do this thing, that it'll all change, but it's not who you are. And sometimes really unfortunate things happen to us, and we can wish all day long in our mind that we can go back in time and change them. And we can't. But hopefully, what we can be proud of, what we can hold on to, is that we behaved like the person that we can be proud of. That will mean everything in those moments. So if this is something that you feel is an area, a truth that you are thinking, I needed to hear that, practice this. Define your values. Write them down. Do you know your values? Again, something that I can teach you on the course, the self-made course. It's like the first module. Johnny, you're selling again. Stop. You're not though, because you're rubbish at selling. But define your values. Write them down. Regularly ask yourself, does this choice reflect who I want to be? When you fall out of alignment, own it. Own it. Don't blame somebody else. Don't ask yourself what someone else should have done differently. Just own it and return quickly without shame. Hopefully, this has been a helpful episode, and I'm going to leave you with this. The real work here is show up for yourself. This work is hard. Self-development is hard. And most of the time, the big thing in self-development is to get out your own way, is to trust your judgment, is to trust those feelings that go on within you, those little messages, those gut feelings, those things that after the event happens, you think to yourself, I knew that was going to happen. Trust yourself. Align with yourself. Show up for yourself. Back yourself. Start building confidence by building a version of yourself that you know you can trust. That's what this is all about. So if today's episode has landed with you, take a screenshot and share it on social media. Sounds a bit beggy, but I'm really trying to get this podcast out there. So if you want to help me out, if this has been helpful to you, hopefully it helps someone else, share it on social media. Let them know what you learned. And tag me, because I'd love to hear your takeaways. That'd be really cool. I mentioned it at the beginning, the self-made course, it'll be out soon. Keep an eye out, join the waitlist. You get a free gift, which is a free life audit. And it's amazing, that audit. It really does ask some pretty powerful questions. And really, self-development is a question-led thing. It's you asking yourself questions honestly and giving yourself honest answers. And that's what this course is all about. It's about becoming self-made. It's about making the version of yourself. A lot of people think we discover ourselves, but we don't. It doesn't happen by accident. You're just going to stumble upon a version of yourself. You have to make it. Real self-development is about becoming self-made. And that's what this course is about. I look forward to getting out there in the world. I really do believe that this is going to change. I'm so proud of what I've created. And I don't say that very often. I think you probably, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while now, you'll get that vibe. That's something I'm working on all the time. But this I am proud of. I really am. And I'm really excited about getting out there. So stand by, and I'll keep mentioning it on the podcast until it's out. And probably when it's out, probably should do that too. Anyway, thank you for listening to the Johnny Lawrence podcast today. Thank you for your support. It just means the world to me. And I look forward to seeing you next week on another episode of the Johnny Lawrence podcast.